Hello, you guys. Today I want to talk to you about why competition is actually a really good thing. And so, hence, the competition is fertilizer. We're going to talk about how that helps and why you don't have to be scared after all. So, we're going to actually explore how competition can actually benefit you as a small business, especially in a day when venture capitalists are trying to take over the world and compete with us. But we've got some tricks up our sleeve to make sure that we're safe no matter what happens. So, are you losing sleep over big companies moving into your market? I recently had somebody, we were talking over the phone, and he knows of a larger company that's very good, frankly, at social media campaigns and things of that nature. And they've got some big money behind them, they've got some big partners involved, and they're starting to grow out into multiple locations, and you might be next. So he was a little bit worried about that. So while the thought of larger competitors can be a little bit intimidating, it's actually a good sign that your market is thriving. More competition means more opportunities for work. And let me explain that a little bit. But first, you're thinking to yourself, I'm going to lose customers. I'm too small to compete. After all, they can afford to spend hundreds of dollars just to acquire one customer. You feel like that little ship out in the big ocean all by yourself, and meanwhile, they're like this big cruise ship where it seems like nothing phases them. So you might have, and that's exactly how the young guy felt who was talking to me. He's got a young family. He's just getting started with the idea of window cleaning, but he's not full on committed as far as like monetary investment. He's done a lot of research. He's put a lot of effort into planning, but he said, should I duck out right now? Is it too late? Or should I go for it still? And so it's kind of a normal thing that we get that fight or flight complex, right? We get a little adrenaline. You might have a little bit of an adrenaline kick and you're concerned about what happened. Rightfully so. There's a lot of bad things that could happen, right? But we don't have to worry, like I said before. So, number one, you've got to change your mindset. More players in the market means there's an increased customer awareness. And so that's why I like the idea of the analogy with fertile soil. A crowded market actually shows that customers are actively looking for window cleaning services or whatever home service you're talking about. In general, the more people that are putting out or providing a service or product, the more awareness there is about it and the more education there is about it. When founders come to the table with something that's brand new, they have to convince the entire market and educate everybody that this is actually something that's good for them. But if there's already a lot of people doing that, number one, it diversifies the education component of it so that your target market typically has a good understanding. They've heard a pitch from multiple people. Young high school kids going down the road, knocking on every door, offering to do everything for $100 or sometimes even less with kind of trash equipment. No offense, guys, if that's you, good hustle. But that just makes somebody think, I'd actually like to get my windows cleaned for real. I actually had a customer not too long ago that told me some kid knocked on her door and offered to do her windows, and she was just happy to get the guy out of there. She felt bad for him and wanted him to be able to get paid something, so she gave him a nice little tip, but she realized, he wasn't going to be up to snuff compared to an established professional who's been in the area doing it for several years. And so it was an easy thing for her to say now, I'd actually like to have that service. She never did it before, but now she was thinking about it. She was educated. She realized it was difficult and tedious, and it was taking the young kid a long time to do it, several hours, and he never finished the upstairs windows, too hard to reach. So now she was inspired, and she called me. But we're also probably not so much afraid of the little guy, probably more afraid of the big guy. So think of it like a pie. When there's only one or two of you out there, it's a small pie because there's not much awareness. And so you're splitting that evenly. But as the market grows, that increases. There's more people coming in to the equation, more businesses trying to compete for those leads because the education, the pie actually grows. More people think of it. There's that whole keep up with the Joneses where people want to, one up their neighbor. And window cleaning or any other home service for that matter, is a perfect way to do that. There's higher end neighborhoods that typically us window cleaners target, where they'll actually brag about how much they pay. And the more they pay, the better bragging point that is. And that's going to help us here later in a bit. So I'll give you a little bit about my backstory. So I came from New York, or grew up in San Diego, but when I moved to New York, there wasn't much competition at all. There was one or two other competitors who were established in the area. One guy eventually retired and moved on. The other, they were pretty well known. A lot of people didn't like them, but there wasn't any other option. And so the danger is that if you are first to market and people come to be dissatisfied with you, they will begin to search for competition. And so you do need to do your work to stay at the top of your game, make sure your customer's happy, taken care of. That way they're not going to even think about looking anywhere else. And when you're able to build up that relationship with them, you're going to have them loyal to you as long as you stay within reason. But there's this kind of neat thing in New York City. They say that phrase, if you can make it in New York, then you can make it anywhere. Fact of the matter is, it's kind of the opposite. There's so many people in New York that if you want to sell a sandwich, you have millions of people walking by you every day on a street corner, particularly in Manhattan, right? So it's kind of the opposite. If you can't sell a sandwich to 1 out of a million, how are you going to do it when there's only 10 people? Small town, you have to try to convince people to come out of their house and to come past your area. Big city, it's a kind of a seamless thing in a big city. Can you step out for a minute, or at least be very quiet and keep the door closed? What are you doing? I'm trying to do a presentation. People, I'm recording it, but if you stay out in the back, I have a fake background thing, okay? So you could stay in here if you're very quiet. The more education there is on a particular service, the more awareness there is on a service, the better off everybody is, because there's more fish that are actually looking for that bait. They find out, hey, that's a pretty good thing. And so they're going to tell their friends, and their friends are going to tell their friends. And then all of a sudden, everybody realizes you could get your windows clean. And it's actually a good idea. Anyways, back to New York. Out there wasn't a lot of competition, at least not at first. There is now. And so the people I sold my business to have to work hard to maintain their reputation so they have an edge on the market, because they're kind of the original gangster now. Meanwhile, I moved out to Dallas, north of Dallas rather. And out here, it's a fierce market. It's very similar to where I grew up in San Diego, where there's a lot of people willing to do a lot of work for very cheap. Meanwhile, I'm a price leader in my region. I haven't found many companies that charge close to what I charge, and I'm typically told that I'm $100 or more than the next closest price, and yet people still choose me. On top of that, we have some pretty large franchises and different brands that are starting to grow out here that are establishing themselves very well. But I'm not worried about that. I see that as a great opportunity. With increased market awareness comes more competitors. With more competitors comes increased market awareness. We've established this. And so this adds, whenever a competitor begins to advertise their service, that spreads awareness. So if some big corporation comes through, or somebody's funded by venture capitalists and they've got a manager who's taking care of the marketing, they're going to be spitting out a lot of finances to try to just get people to know that, one, they exist, but two, that they need the service. And that number two is where you come in. The people get the information, they find out about the service, but naturally, everybody wants to get 2 or 3 prices. So you have an opportunity right there. If you're not the best, or rather, if you're not the most well-known, all you have to do is be second or third, and you'll be able to get your name out there. Whether that's with the Google LSA thing, or SEO, or just kind of finding your ways, whether they get bombarded on Facebook and social media with ads, or whether they get postcards and other print mail sent to their address, they're going to start doing their research. And in that research, there's an opportunity for them to find you. And so the trick is, you have got to find ways to distinguish yourself from those big, giant companies that are moving in near you. Now, it's not all going to be necessarily easy. I didn't say that, but you could definitely thrive with this. You've still got to maintain a high quality, with great standards, great customer service, and good reviews. Manage that online reputation now like never before. It's never been as valuable as it is now. People trust online reviews even more than they trust their own friends now. You could never say that before today. But what I love about the current market is it really brings balance to the force. And the more weight that they carry with spreading the service around, it catapults you forward into the market awareness, allowing you to differentiate yourself from them as the local guy. So let's talk a little bit about positioning and pricing as well. Because remember, I'm in a very competitive market where there's people charging as little as half as much as me. Meanwhile, I'm probably getting more work than they are. Now, when it comes to positioning, there's that notorious USP, unique selling proposition. That's the things that differentiate you from the competition. We talked a little bit about the high school kids earlier. Hopefully, you're more experienced than them. Now, some of these high school kids are pretty good, and they're going to actually do a great job, maybe even better than you, and some of them are bold and fearless, and they're going to be growing some lean machines that are going to just print money before long. So watch out. But a lot of times, they don't have the experience, they don't have the expertise, they don't have the eye for detail, and they don't really care about the money. And so they're not going to show up every day, day in and day out. Whereas you are trying to be serious about growing your business. Otherwise, you wouldn't be watching this video. So it's fairly easy to differentiate yourself from those young teenagers or from a bucket Bob. Or in my situation, there's a lot of firefighters near me. No offense if you're a firefighter, but this is my real job. This is my full-time income. I need to show up every day because I care about my business. If you're a firefighter, you have some other passion, and you're doing window cleaning as a side gig, well, you could take a day off. If you lose a customer, you don't really care as much. It doesn't affect your bottom line at the same level. It's only a small percentage of your total income. Whereas somebody who's doing it full time, well, you better believe we care. And so that's what I have done to differentiate myself from the firefighters around my area. And so that's the psychology that you use to say, look, I'm different than them. I'm better because why? And that can be different for everybody. That's why it's unique. One of the primary ways to continue to gain an edge on the market is to keep getting quality 5-star reviews. Make sure your customers love you and rave about you. Go above and beyond, and then they're going to be like marching billboards. And nowadays, with the different types of tools that are available to track referrals, you can incentivize things with Jobber's referral program, or I don't know if there's any others out there that do something similar. Now you can go viral. And so you got to make sure that every customer goes home happy. When you maintain that stellar reputation, you're able to charge top dollar. It doesn't matter how big or how small you are. When people perceive you as a luxury service provider, the best of the best will want to use your services. And that's true in any market. Part of the perceived value comes from social proof. Social proof is when their neighbor gets something, loves it, and tells their other neighbor. Well, that's proof that they love it and they obviously see it's worth it. They don't necessarily care what the price is if that other person is satisfied. And so they're going to call you just because their neighbor did. Sometimes they might get a little bit sticker shock, but now they say, hey, if he thought it was worth it, I might as well give it a shot. Then you get a chance to wow them as well. When it comes to the really big brands and franchises, the ironic thing is they're always trying to come off as small, friendly neighborhood. Meanwhile, the little guys are typically trying to look bigger than they are. So what you've got to do is show that you're the local guy. Make sure everywhere on social media, whether it's your personal social media pages or your business stuff, that you're highlighting what separates you as a local. You're not coming in from some other state. You're not coming in with extra funding. You're just the guy in the coffee shop that they see, or the guy in the grocery store. Going to local networking groups is a major bonus in order to do this. You can be differentiated just from that. Additionally, community involvement. Larger companies can do this as well, but you have a chance as a sole proprietor or as a small company in a local area to volunteer for things that you know your local community cares about. You should have special insights and understanding of what's happening in your neighborhood because you're from there. Meanwhile, somebody coming in with big funding doesn't have the bandwidth to show up to small local events that they're not even aware of. And then when you take pictures and highlight these things on social media on your business page, it's going to stick out so that when people start to price shop, they're going to do their research, their due diligence to figure out how is this guy different than the other guys. When you're posting something other than your logo with a bunch of random pictures of some random dudes with squeegees, well, you're going to stick out as somebody who's actually helping in the area. And they're going to trust you and want to work with you no matter how much more or less you'd cost. Now, I was talking about how networking is so crucial, especially for establishing yourself as a local person. The value of building relationships is almost unmeasurable. Whether it's somebody who's your competition or somebody who has a similar type of service that complements, like window cleaning and pressure washing, or landscaping, or anything else that's high-end. Typically, carpet cleaners can refer work to window cleaners and vice versa because there's not a lot of overlap in the skill, but there's a lot of overlap in the demographic and the customers that use us. So it's crucial for the growth of your business to maintain good relationships. It can lead to future partnerships, referrals, or even the chance to acquire other companies. Now, we are in the day of venture capitalism, and so there's a lot of big money going out, and I'm sure a lot of you have heard about these big conglomerates buying out smaller businesses and rolling them up into one big machine to print dollars. Well, the incredible thing is we have a unique edge. We're running home service businesses, and the framework, no matter what the service is almost exactly identical from one to the other. There might be nuance here and there with how frequent the work is being done or the types of little systems and ways that we like to go about treating our customers. So there's a place for you to put your fingerprints to really be distinguished and different than everybody else. But in the meantime, the guts of your machine are going to be the same as anybody else's, so you understand business. And so with that knowledge, you're able to cut your teeth on your own business, and eventually you'll have opportunities to buy out competitors or other services that you'd like to add on. So rather than learning how to do maid service and trying to find somebody, you find another maid service company where the owner is getting ready to retire, and you give them an offer. Easily double your business over the course of a couple of years by adding another service and also a list of customers. Not only will you get the advantage of having a new team that's able to do those services, but you're able to take their customers, import it into your list, and take your list and send it to their business as well. And so obviously you can have partnerships that are strategic that do the same thing. I've partnered with maid services who've referred my information to their clients, and I've also sent their information to my customer list. And you can do this with any type of industry. Now, I had the advantage of running into the benefit of networking 2 times, particularly when it comes to buying and selling businesses. When I was in New York, I actually was approached by somebody looking for some side work. There was 2 brothers who had been recently laid off from a big maintenance company because of COVID, and they were looking to start their own business. Meanwhile, they didn't have any work, and they didn't really know what to do to start getting work. So naturally, they just called me. How do I get some work? And they were asking if I could contract anything out to them if I was ever extra busy. And so I took note of that, eventually called them on a big job that was too big for me to do in a day. They helped me knock it out and proved that they were very valuable. So I started giving them more work, eventually hired them, and eventually they actually bought my old business. It was all through that one phone call. They reached out to me, and it became a match made in heaven. Meanwhile, I came out here to north of Dallas, and another company that had been operating for a few years reached out to me asking if I was interested in buying their business. Now, I already had an established brand, a good website, and all the little bells and whistles were already worked out. I didn't really need their systems, but they had a pretty valuable customer list. They had done about $70,000 in revenue a couple years prior, and then it had been fizzling out because they were out of town most of the year. They had health issues and were getting ready to move out of state. So they just needed somebody who could take over the customers. Because they were in a hurry and I wasn't, I was able to get a really good deal. And so I was able to add, for not too much money, an extra $6, an extra 600 or 700 leads to my customer list. And most of them had a stellar reputation with the previous service provider. When they let their customer base know that I was going to be taking care of the business from here on out, a lot of them transferred right over. And so I was able to make my money back within the first 6 months. Now, some final thoughts. Remember that your competition is like fertilizer. It actually helps you to grow stronger. There's a lot of ways that it benefits, and them being around is actually a good thing. If you ever look at rainforest, that's some of the most fertile soil on the planet. And it's not because there's a lot of space. There's not much sun to go around. But the top trees feed the bottom trees, and all the nutrients and all the warmth and all the protection provided by that upper canopy creates some very nourishing, healthy soil so that you have some of the most abundant, fruitful land in the world. If your area is starting to get more competitive like that, yours is going to be just like that rainforest. You don't need to lower your prices. You just need to find a way to set yourself apart from the competition. From having those 5-star reviews, from being reliable, showing up on time, making sure all of your information is available promptly and very clear with your presentation, then you're going to win work. A lot of times people will just go to the first person that responds. Now, if you have 2 people who are responding quickly, maybe price might come into factor, but you can you can almost always sell yourself as being better for being the higher price, with value over most people having a window cleaner come into their house would rather have value over price. They're trusting you to come into their closet, come into their master bedroom, so you go into all their bathrooms. You're going to see everything. And so they want somebody they can trust. And with an online reputation, you can build that trust. Now, specifically when you stay small and lean, if the owner is there at every job, people are shocked. They're excited that, hey, the founder is here. The owner of the company is doing it himself. They know that you're going to take care of them because your reputation is on the line. It doesn't matter if you have a business name or if you go by your personal name. They care that you care, and nobody cares more than the owner. And so that's an advantage, especially if you're a solo guy or you just have 1 or 2 guys working with you. Those bigger operations are hiring somebody who has about 2 weeks of training before they get out in the field. And then at best, they stick with you for 1 year to 2 years. And so the homeowners are a little bit jaded by having a large group of people show up and they don't know anybody's name. They don't know what anybody's doing. And so you can counteract that by saying, look, I'm the owner and I'm going to be there. I'll take care of you. If you have any other issues, you let me know. I care about my work. I care about my reputation. I want to make sure that I earn a 5-star review from you. And that's not just on the surface. I want to make sure that you're fully satisfied with the service. And so because of that type of mentality, you will naturally stand out to a homeowner. If they're talking to somebody on the phone that's a stranger that doesn't have an established reputation, they just don't have trust. But you can build trust with your content on social media, talking to them, building rapport, connecting over local things, letting them know that you're from the neighborhood that they know. And it makes a world of the difference. Now, there's a few more things that you got to be aware of in these days with all these different things like ChatGPT and Google Gemini. People are starting to find information in new ways. The whole algorithm for every different search engine has completely changed, especially over the last several years. So you need to be aware of that and be ready to be flexible with things as they change. It used to be you could get by with just a website. Now, social media is becoming pivotal. Not necessarily that people will discover you there, but if somebody's looking to make a decision, the algorithm is going to search the internet and find every review that's ever been written about you and every comment that you've ever made. They're going to look at your business website. They're going to look at your social media pages like Facebook and Instagram and double check to make sure that you're real and that you're active. If you haven't posted on social media in years, it's going to look like you're more inactive, and it's going to have a harder time recommending you as somebody who's current in the business. The more information that you're able to put out there and show that you're alive and well, and especially if it reinforces your brand by educating the customers about what you do, why you do it and why you're a good choice, well, the algorithm is going to want to pick you. So do everything that you can in any way that you can for as low of a price as you can, and you'll see a world of a difference. So just to follow up with everybody, let me know if you have any other questions or any remarks, anything that I could go in more depth with you about. I'm always looking to help any way that I can. In the meantime, I know a lot of you have been fantastic, and some of you have even become members of my channel to give me a little extra coffee money during the week. And I appreciate all of you. I am looking at eventually doing some type of a online membership, probably just go through YouTube, where anybody who would sign up to be a member for that advanced tier, looking at around $100 a month right now. And what would be included is every week, or at least almost every week, some type of a group coaching call, where it's more of a mastermind. We can all talk shop and communicate a little bit. Or at the very least, I would do some type of a private live stream where I can address specific questions. And if I can get people to hop on one-on-one, that'd be fantastic. I know a lot of times our schedules don't align. We live all over the country, maybe even all over the world. And so we can't always jump on at the same time every week. But if I'm able to get your specific questions, I can go deep dive any subject that you want, where it doesn't have to be, polished and well edited. It just has to be valuable information that's answering your questions or questions of other people that you might get inspired by. And so I haven't figured out all the details, but I'm looking at doing something about every week. And on top of that, about a 30-minute coaching phone call just to stay in touch and get any feedback you might need. If you have marketing things you're working through or operations things, trying to figure out how you're working your back end office stuff, I'd be a valuable resource, I think, for a lot of the things that I've already done. And maybe I could help you through a couple things. So that's what I'd be thinking about. One group thing per week, along with once a month, a 30-minute phone call. And so if you'd be interested in that at around $100 a month, let me know. Also, if you're looking to expand more in the future, there's other resources that we could probably pull into that. I know I've started to dabble with Go High Level. It's a valuable resource, especially for marketing. And so if you haven't already used that, it's pretty impressive what it can do. If you ever heard of the voice AI bots, Go High Level can do that. So I'm starting to use that more for the marketing end. It's not very good for the back end of things, as far as like dealing with the customers, at least from my perspective, and especially for if you have employees who are going to go out and do some work. You can do all of that through Go High Level, but I found Jobbers a lot less clunky and a lot easier to understand for everybody who's involved. So I'm going to be sticking with Jobber for the long haul. And meanwhile, Go High Level is great for the front end and for managing website stuff or different promotions or social media stuff. You can run Google ads and Facebook ads through it as well. So it's pretty robust for the marketing end of things. So if you guys are looking to geek out about that stuff, we may even be able to talk about that in the private group. But I'm not a pro, so don't ask my advice yet. But with all that said, if anybody wants to support my channel, you can also use my affiliate link with Window Cleaning Resource. Every video that I do, I try to put any relative information in the description. And so if you're watching this, I'll have the link below for Jobber. If you're going to sign up for a CRM, why not try Jobber? To me, it's one of the best leading CRMs. And on top of that, I think they're the most aggressive with implementing AI and adding features almost on a weekly basis. So I've been surprised with how many things they've released every quarter. There's at least a few things, and there's new updates every month. So it's a fantastic option if you don't already have a CRM to manage your customers and follow up with them and make sure everybody's information is in one place being tracked, so that if you were ever going to sell your business or ever wanted to just touch bases with your previous customers, you had everything in one place. If you do use my Jobber link, you get 20% off for the first 6 months, and sometimes they have like a different promotion on top of that, but at the moment, I think that's what it is. So anyways, thank you guys for watching my video. If you have any other questions, concerns, comments, go ahead and comment below, and I will see you in the next video.